everyone. Welcome to Terror Talk with Shannon and Kathy.
I'm just over here playing with Jack.
Little Jack skeleton dance. Would you like to start the show now?
Oh, sure.
Okay, cool. Today on the show, we are going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. I got some what the hells. Kathy has a what the hell. We've got horror facts. We're going to talk horror news. Kathy's got an article, and then we're going to talk about all the shit we've been watching and reading. It's a bonanza.
It's a true story.
It's good stuff. It's the way the show began. We like it.
Yeah.
It's our beginnings. Talk about all the things we love. Would you like to start with your update? I think you said you had a true crime update.
I do. Our friend, old girl, Amanda Knox.
Yeah.
Faces a new slander trial in Italy that could remove the last legal stain against her.
Oh, really?
Yes. She was back on trial early April-ish for wrongly accusing a Congolese man of murdering her roommate while the young women were exchange students in Italy. Knox herself was convicted of the slaying before being exonerated in a case that grabbed the global spotlight. I guess in November, Italy's highest court threw out the slander conviction, the only remaining guilty verdict against Knox, after the same court definitively threw out convictions for Kircher's murder against Knox and her Italian ex-boyfriend, Raphael, 9 years ago. There was another man that ended up getting convicted in the murder. So she's all thrown up into this whole controversy again. Mm-hmm. Her accusation against bar owner Patrick Lumumba appeared in statements typed by police that she signed, but which have been ruled inadmissible in the new trial by Italy's highest court. She recanted the accusation in a 4-page written note in English, penned the following afternoon, the only evidence the court can rule on. So right. I guess the only thing I'll say is I'm interested in why she just wanted to get re-involved in this case, or is it that she felt like something was still on her name and because they hadn't found
there may be some motivation that we just don't know because we haven't really looked at that.
Because I think a lot of people think she's maybe still guilty and she doesn't want that.
Yeah, probably not. I just don't know what there might be some motivation for it I'm unaware of. Obviously, we haven't looked at this case in a long time, so I'll be curious to see how that unfolds and if it becomes a new story.
Yeah.
It may or may not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just give a little what the hell real quick. This is a little one. What the hell is a series of ridiculous criminals that we talk about? And I read about this man in Memphis, Tennessee, and this man is in jail after allegedly attempting to rob a store 3 times, including the use of a snake.
Oh, God.
Reginald Cook, just in April of this year, honestly, Reginald Cook, 26 years old, is charged with 2 counts of attempted aggravated robbery. And the police say that around 2 a.m., Cook attempted to rob the Shell convenience store. They were trying to steal your pumpkin seeds. No.
That's not funny.
Right. I understand. Sorry. And he implied that he had a weapon, as they often do. I think the last What the Hell episode we did, I did a story on a man that had a twig, and he tried to make it look like a gun.
But at least a twig, in a piece of cloth or something. A snake?
Yeah. So, So according to the affidavit, Cook entered the store once, implied he had a weapon. The guy was like, go away. Nothing happened. He comes in the store again, demanding money from the register. The victim said Cook kept reaching into his clothing, implying that he had a gun, but Cook left the store after the victim refused. Can you imagine? He's just like, give me all your money. And the guy's like, no. And the guy's like, damn it, and walks out.
That's awesome.
So then an hour later, he enters the store again for the 3rd time, but with a 5-foot snake wrapped around his neck. Like he probably just randomly I'm going to go home and get my snake.
Yeah, I got it. Lady, can I borrow your snake?
That's what I imagine. Cook goes to the counter shouting, give me the damn money.
It's like the snake's just wrapped around his neck.
It's probably just so mad by then. And the victim states that he saw Cook reaching inside of his backpack, implying that he was armed with an actual weapon, and the victim, the store owner, then pulls out his own gun in self-defense. And then the police say no money was taken and no injuries were sustained because he basically was like, now I have a snake around my neck.
Oh my God.
Give me the money. And then the guy just pulls out like Eastwood style a gun and is like, I have an actual weapon.
Yes.
So maybe
I can shoot
fuck
your snake.
off.
Yeah. That's bizarre.
Then, of course, officers arrived and moving on.
I just picture him like coming back in the store and now he's got a snake around his neck. He's
know.
like, now what? And the guy's like, you have a snake around your neck?
And just pulls out his gun.
Yeah. Poor snake. He was so violated.
The snake was living his best life. He got to go for a walk. So,
okay, this is a combination of sad and hysterically funny if you allow yourself to go to like that very gallows place.
Got it.
Okay.
She's willing herself to.
Video shows woman wheeling a corpse into a Brazil bank to sign a loan. Bank staffers became suspicious as the man wasn't able to support his head or hold a pen. So here is
suspicious.
Yeah, they call the police who arrested the woman and charged her with fraud. Okay, so here's a little of the commentary. The man in a wheelchair did not look like he needed a loan. At a bank in Rio de Janeiro on Tuesday, a woman wheeled in the body of a 68-year-old man who police later said had been dead for hours. The man was pale and his head dropped back into an unsettling angle when it wasn't being supported by Erica de Sousa Vieira Nunez, the woman identified by Reuters as pushing the wheelchair and trying to crimp his limp hand around a pen. Here it comes. Uncle Paulo, can you hear me? You need to sign it. If you don't sign, there is no way, Nunez said to him as she stood at the bank counter in a video verified by NBC News. I cannot sign for you, Nunez said. This is a document. Here is your name, Paulo Roberto Braga. You must hold the pen. A bank clerk could be heard off camera telling Nunez, I don't think he's okay. He's not well. Nunez repeatedly lifted his head upright, but it would immediately drop backward. His eyes remained shut and his arms limp. When she curled the man's fingers around a pen, his hand would not grip. She assured the clerks, he is normally like this.
No, not when he's alive.
In an apparent effort to convince the bank staff, Nunez asked them if they saw him hold the door open. An unnamed clerk said, no, we did not see it.
No, I wouldn't imagine you did.
As she continued to attempt to have the man sign the document, so I'm picturing he just keeps dropping the pen. The bank staff becomes increasingly alarmed. No, he is not well, one of the clerks repeated. His color, look. And she says, if you are not well, I will take you to the hospital. Do you want to go to the emergency room again? Nunez asked the dead man. Staff eventually calls the police, who arrests Nunez and charges her with fraud.
You think?
The corpse was taken to the morgue. That is terrifying. And it's really sad. Like, you can tell just by looking at her, like, she doesn't look
I can also understand, like, I don't know the circumstances, but I can also understand the desperation.
That's what's the sad part, I think.
The stuff that happens when people die and their affairs aren't in order.
Yeah.
That desperation that she must have felt. Yeah.
Can I just...
But still, like, what the fuck, lady?
Here's the best part, though. Nunez's lawyer later argued that the man died at the bank.
Yeah, just mid-signature.
And the forensic analysis determined, no, he had died earlier while lying down.
Oh, yeah, because everything
Very
was...
sad.
When we die, things pool in us.
Yeah.
And if you die lying down, the blood and everything pools in certain areas.
The whole thing's very sad.
Like, they can tell.
But god awful at the same time.
Oh, Kathy. All right. Let me... I got one more what the hell.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ireland's last leprechaun whisperer.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. I was mid-drink.
I was like, she's going to take a drink and spit this shit up. Reveals the creature's remaining population. Okay, let's go. The last leprechaun whisperer has made a few bold claims as he appeared on Irish TV. Kevin Woods has branded himself as Ireland's only remaining leprechaun whisperer, Apparently there were many. And hails from Carlingford in Goluth. Coluth. Sorry, Ireland.
He pops right up on Google, by the way.
He claims to still speak to 236 leprechauns that still exist in the area. He says that leprechauns are spirits who show themselves to him in a form that he is comfortable with. Woods, who is known locally, even went as far as to lobby the EU to make leprechauns a protected species.
Come on.
Appearing on Ireland AM, he explained why people stopped believing in leprechauns and how their population dwindled.
I can't.
So it's like the population, it's like if you believe, they will come. He explained that in the years after the famine, when Irish people immigrated to places like America, the population fell drastically. But before that, other events took place that saw the leprechaun population fail. According to him, it was when the Vikings arrived in Ireland when the leprechaun spirit attached itself to the human spirit. And he claims that leprechauns did this to help humans at that time.
Okay.
He explained that his role is to protect the leprechaun species. There are 236 left, and there used to be millions of them.
I like the just completely random number. 236.
He counts. He probably has diaries of all the leprechauns he talks to.
Oh my God. There's a thing on here that says, has the Irish people's lack of belief led to the leprechaun's population dying out?
He actually identifies the mountain where these 236 leprechauns still live. And that they're millions of years ago, and they've lived there ongoingly.
Oh my God.
And that he's asked them what they want him to do about about this problem. He consulted with the leprechauns.
Are they like taking up too much space? Like, are people shooting leprechauns?
It just says that I've asked what they want me to do about that. So anyone that comes in now into my cavern or into their cavern, if they're psychic, they can get the gift. So apparently I've
asked them what they would like me to do about that.
Yes. So he said that he was asked by the leprechauns to pass on his gift, meaning his gift of being able to talk to the leprechauns, to a family member. But none of my family members want it.
No.
None of his family members.
Who would want it? I would look at him and go, I don't want this.
At Christmas, he'll be like, would you like to be the leprechaun whisperer?
I don't. That is the cheapest fucking gift you could get someone for Christmas. Don't be putting that shit in my stocking.
You're welcome.
Oh my God.
Let's do some horror facts, and then we can get to some of the other.
Before we do that, can we check in on this guy every now and then to see if he's found more?
I would like to do
Maybe
that.
he finds 247 and a half.
I mean, his narrative is that they're dwindling. So I'm guessing the next story, it'll be like, there's now 221.
Does he talk about how they pass?
No.
Okay.
Not in this article.
Well, I'm going to do
We've got questions.
Deep digging. Okay.
Yeah, maybe some horror facts can come out of it.
All right.
Let's do a little of this stuff.
Horror facts with a curl.
Okay.
Number 1. Which on-screen adaptation fell flat, according to Stephen King?
Oh, okay. There's a few to choose from there. Okay.
Number 2. What hobby does Norman enjoy in Psycho?
Stuffing his mother with goo. Okay, go ahead.
Number 3. This 80s franchise encountered censorship hurdles in several countries, sparking debates about artistic expression and censorship.
Okay.
Number 4. How long before the film's release did John Landis conceive of the idea for American Werewolf in London?
Oh, like how long? Oh, so how quickly he got it made, basically.
So how long before the film's release did he conceive the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he get it done fast or did he get it done slow? Okay.
So I'm going to give you 3 choices for this next one.
Okay.
And number 5. What is the name of this god-awful 1987 B-horror film? Home is where the horror is for a married couple who move into the estate of the wife's late aunt, where sketchy servants and odd events threaten them. Is it Invasion of the Blood Farmers? Rest in Pieces? Or Bloodbath at the House of Death?
All delightful titles, Kathy,
Yes.
that you either made up or exist. Appreciate that. I also think you had, so we'll get the answers to I'll guess later, and we'll get the answers to those questions. But you said something about a merch thing.
Oh, yes. I stumbled upon this by accident. We're big coffee drinkers in our house.
Sure.
And we drink a lot of Bones coffee. If you've never tried Bones coffee, it's really great. It's kind of up there with it's made out of bones. It's up there with Death Wish and some of the really fun packaging and all that. We've been drinking Bones forever. However, I fell across, I was like, you know what? I wonder if there's just like a specific horror coffee out there. And there is a coffee company out of Florida called Coffee Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, cute.
And it has some of the, we haven't tried them yet, so I'll let you know on our next show,
Sometime.
one of these shows. I'll give the update, but we're trying banana bread, waffle, and toasted coconut.
Okay.
But they all have horror packaging, all really good organic coffees. They also have teas. You can buy samplers if you're not sure. But the packaging is really, really fun, and it's all horror themed. So if you are a avid coffee drinker like myself, or even tea drinker, which is cool. A lot of these coffee places only have coffee and they don't have tea. Go on there. Just the packaging itself is super cool. So I'm really excited to try these.
Oh, that's really fun. I'm looking forward to hearing if they're any good.
Yeah. They get really good reviews, so we'll see.
Right. And I think there was an article, too, that you were going to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about this, and I just wanted to have a quick conversation because it's just kind of funny. So Disney almost earned its first NC-17 rating.
Okay, sorry. Is this a what the hell?
I mean, it might as well be because I think this is so ridiculous. So while Disney has many disturbing secrets and some of its films can contain horrifying moments, The House of Mouse is primarily known for releasing accessible movies. So most recently, The First Omen, one scene almost earned director Arkasha Stevenson and writer Ben Jacoby's horror prequel, the dreaded NC-17 rating. So without going into the whole article, which is on MSN.com, it was all because there is a flash of a vagina. The shot of the vagina was the only thing that was holding up the R rating. It wasn't any of the gory deaths. It wasn't men being severed. It was literally a shot of a vagina, not even in a sexual way. So it wasn't what was happening to that body part that was offensive. It was the body part that was offensive. It's 2024. This is now the article. It's 2024. We need to stop looking at the female body as an object of horror fascination, Stevenson said. I'm like, guys, this is what gives you an NC-17?
What I don't understand is what is a shot of a vagina doing in a Disney movie anyway?
Well, it's not. It
was like an accident or something?
No, Disney signed on for The First Omen, the movie The First Omen.
Yeah, understood. But okay.
It's released under 20th Century.
Yeah.
And it's tied to Disney.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know the relevance of the vagina.
I guess my point is it's super convoluted.
Yeah.
You know, like these major companies that are like 6 different movie companies that now are like owned by everybody. Yeah. And so the sensationalism of this is like, it's a Disney movie. It's not a Disney movie. It's fucking The First Omen.
But I almost feel like they used that to justify the NC-17. It's a fucking 20th century Studios film.
I know.
Under the umbrella of Disney.
Yeah,
it's not like they put this on Pocahontas's cooch.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're just being fucking dramatic.
But also, that aside, why does that warrant an NC-17 rating?
Because a penis would? I don't know.
It doesn't, though.
I don't even know.
You saw Ben is Afraid. There's peepees all over the place. Or Beau is Afraid, excuse me. Yeah. There's penises all over that. Boardwalk Empire.
The
Venus is
vajayjay
everywhere.
is sacred, Kathy.
Oh God,
We
guys,
can't see it 50
can we stop
feet high?
being so afraid of the power of the vajay? Okay.
They're pretty afraid.
All right. Well, I just thought that was a little comical. That's all.
It is delightful. Thanks for sharing.
Oh.
In vagina news with Kathy.
What was the haunted vagina? You did a series on that for a while.
Yeah. We definitely should get a new, like a jingle for vaginas. Every time we have vagina news, we should just...
Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Just a little...
Yeah.
A little vagina jingle.
Vagina facts with Kat.
Exactly. No? Okay. So I saw a bunch of movies. Did you, in review news, I saw a bunch of stuff since the last time we did one of these kinds of things. Did
I've
you
seen
too?
a few.
Yeah. And I think reading things too, right?
I have a book that I will talk about that I finished.
Okay.
Do you want me to start with a book or do you want me to start with some
let's
films?
go with books first.
Well, I finally, I got a stack of books for Christmas from some of y'all from Discord.
Great.
And I finished we have always lived in the castle. I had seen the series.
I gave that book to you.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen the series when they did it on, I don't remember who was streaming it, but and it was pretty decent. But the book it takes you on this really crazy ride because there's multiple messages in this book, but it's a 1962 mystery novel by American author Shirley Jackson. It was actually her final work. The plot is Mary Catherine, otherwise Maricat, Blackwood, lives with her older sister Constance and their ailing uncle Julian in a large house on extensive grounds in isolation from the nearby village. Constance has not left their home in 6 years, going no farther than her large garden. Uncle Julian, who uses a wheelchair, obsessively writes and rewrites notes for his memoirs while Constance takes care of him. This book is a great mix of comedy and just also drama. I think it's a mystery, but I think it's a commentary or social commentary on people being isolated in towns and kind of becoming the talk of a town based on rumor and things like that. And Maricat tends to be the narrator of this story, and she's young, and I just love her relationship with her cat Jonah. Jonah is so cute. He's a little black cat. It's just, it first starts out, you're kind of wondering what happened to this family, and it unfolds that they're, and spoiler alert if you want to pause here for a second, but you find out that the mother and the father, basically the only people left in the family are Maricat, Constance, and Uncle Julian, because the parents were poisoned, and Constance was she was held responsible, although she didn't end up doing it. And I'll just leave it at that. And the story unfolds basically about a family in this town who people have created a lot of rumors and narration around, so much that they kind of become freaks of the town, and people come and kind of spy. And it's their whole story within this house, which is why, they call it We've Always Lived in the Castle. And I think that it's a really interesting story that as a standalone, it's a fun read, but also all the implications of what happens when people don't want to deal with their own shit and love to talk shit about others as a distraction from, their own and judgment and all of those things. But I think it's a really clever story, and I enjoyed the book quite a bit. It's a really, really easy read.
Yeah, it's short.
It's super short.
It's like a novella, basically.
It is, yeah. And I just really like how Shirley Jackson writes. I mean, her characters are really vivid and well developed, and the banter. You can see why it's been so easy to put her books into films and television, because it really pops up from the page. Even Jonah the cat, he just really pops up from the page. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Awesome. I saw this movie Late Night with the Devil, which is making a splash.
Haven't seen it yet.
Okay,
it's on my list.
I will not.
Please don't spoil.
No, I won't. Well, I wouldn't want to do that for the listeners either. Yeah. So Late Night with the Devil is a 2023 found footage movie directed by Cameron and Colin Cairns. And it's Australian. It's been out a bit longer there, but it's come to streaming here. That's why, it's a 2023 movie. We're not getting it till 2024. It's a Halloween special, basically. The basic premise is that this is a live television event. And David Dustmulchen, the actor that is the late night host in this, is fucking amazing.
He's great in everything.
He was really great. He's great in this. He lends an air of believability to the happenings, right? Because he's such a good actor. So it's a live broadcast of a late night talk show in 1977 that goes wrong, basically. And, what are you going to do? It's like the guest of your show is a woman who wrote a book about a possessed girl. And so she's going on there to talk about this book, and she brings the possessed girl, which happens to be her daughter, on with her. And I mean, what could go wrong? And back in the day, if you're not aware, there was this, and there's a debunker on the show with them too. So a person that debunks, right, to add to the drama. And a million years ago, there was this guy named James Randi who was a debunker. So if you want to go down that YouTube rabbit hole, you can, of like this guy that used to go on late night talk shows and debunk people who said they could talk to spirits and all of that stuff. And so what I would say, so that's what you're getting. But what I would say in review about this is that what I liked about this is that there's a found footage immersion to it. So like found footage is best to me when we're in that world and we don't break away from it and we're committed to it as if it's real. Like that's what those are the found footage things that I enjoy. I would say that there's some strange, everything is very accurate to the time. So 1977, so the set looks amazing. Like, where did they get that set? That's amazing. The hairstyles, the clothes, all the things are very congruent with 1977, except for sort of when they start to do some effects. There's some interesting CGI that's not that's not that great.
Yeah.
And it's like low budget CGI for now. We would have never been able to do so. It's interesting, but it's 1977. So what they do with the CGI, you could explain it away without saying too much about it.
I like the filter and stuff that they use too, because it really looks like you're watching from the trailer anyway.
Yes,
it looks
the coloring.
the coloring's great.
The coloring everything is very authentic. It really helps, and that's why I like it. Is because I would say this is a really solid watch. It might end up being one of the better films of the year. I would say there is a little bit of a controversy about how they used AI in this movie. So if you Google this movie and you don't know anything about it, you're going to see a bunch of stories about, AI, blah, blah, blah. What they did was there are three or four still images that are cutaways. Back in the 70s, when you were watching a television show, they would have these still images and they would cut away from commercials and cut back, and there would be these still images. And so the production crew or the post-production crew used AI to generate these images, and then they had an editor look at them to, make them a little bit better, zhuzh them a bit. So the AI use is really minimal, but people are making a whole fucking thing about it. We're going to be replaced, and all of the histrionics around it. But there are these images that were used. So clam down. The cinematography is really great. It's a Halloween special on a late night TV show. So I can, this has been done. That trope has been done before in found footage, but I can see this being a Halloween watch for a lot of people, on your Halloween watch list.
This is so crazy, but it's one of those movies where I'm I kind of want to save it. Not till Halloween, but I'm so excited to watch it that I'm do I open up the present now?
Yeah, I would watch it just because it'll get more and more spoiled, probably. Because it's so popular.
I think we're going to watch it this week.
Okay, great.
But I'm excited for it.
Cool.
That's cool. I went to the theater and saw Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So it gets whatever ratings, but this is what I'll tell you. So if you've seen Afterlife, which is the prequel to this, is what I love so much about this is it involves a lot of the OGs. So when the discovery of an ancient artifact unleashes an evil force, Ghostbusters new and old must join forces to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. Not only is the creature amazing in this film, and kind of like Jaws where you don't see him for a while, right? There's an essence of him. That if any of you saw the new Top Gun movie, and you walked away and you're like, that was everything I wanted as an homage to Top Gun. That is this for Ghostbusters.
So the fan service is solid.
It is. So if
Which I love.
If you've seen Afterlife, you
Yeah.
get about 10 minutes at the end with the old cast, including Janine.
Yeah.
This one
Has all throughout.
Dan Aykroyd is a central character, and then little by little, Janine comes back. Winston plays a huge role, and then of course, Peter is a fucking nutcase in this, and he starts. So they all start to come back.
Nice.
And Dan Aykroyd owns like a spirit shop, for ghosts, and so it's so much fun. And there's a bunch I won't give anything away. A bunch of Easter eggs from the first Ghostbusters. So if you're a Ghostbusters fan, it's a lot of fun.
The fan service. I'm excited. I look forward to seeing that a lot. I'm glad to hear it because that is what I want from those kind of movies. Yep. I saw a movie called Immaculate 2024, and religious horror.
Yes, you love those.
I'm gonna check it out. So this is 2024, and Sydney Sweeney is in this, and she's the main character, and it is her movie. Not only is she the main character, and it's very much driven by her performance, but she also is the one that got this movie made. Like, had it, produced it, reworked the script, so I understand how much work must have gone into this for her to get there. And she's phenomenal in it. What's interesting about this movie, I think, is that it's not a possession movie. So a lot of religious horror, and I think I said that recently about another religious horror movie that I watched, but so we're starting to get more variety in the religious horror, which I love. So Cecilia, which is the character that Sydney plays, is this American nun, and she's really young, and she goes to this remote convent in Italy. And she doesn't speak a lot of Italian. So in the beginning, there's a lot of like, what did she say? What did he say? She's kind of isolated in that way. She doesn't really speak the language. She's very innocent. She's young. She's a young nun who actually really has her heart in the right place. And very quickly, there's, of course, mean nuns, all of that. You're thinking, okay, this is going to go in that direction where they're going to like abuse her or keep her in a dungeon or something like that. And it very much goes a slightly different way. The first half of this movie is high atmosphere, like really solid atmosphere. One of my favorite parts of this is like spooky. Now, with that came a bunch of jump scares that I didn't think were that necessary. I would have preferred if they stayed with the like slow atmosphere, spooky vibes, but there were some jumps, like the cat that runs by, that kind of janky jump scare.
Yeah.
Like, okay, no, thank you. But atmosphere is still very solid.
I know jump scares is not like your favorite thing in the world. I think we've talked about that.
Needless.
Before. Yeah, needless jump scares. Every now and then when they're done really well, though, they're super effective.
Absolutely.
But I agree. Like, I hate when they just throw them in as a crutch.
Right. And so the second half of this movie, it really turns a corner and it gets very dark. So I was not expecting this. This movie gets dark. And the movie is shot with like all these blacks and reds. Like, not only is the film dark and light, but the content gets a lot darker, and it's a very simple storyline, but they go where you're not sure they're going to go, and you think they're going to like puss out, but they definitely go there in this movie. And she has a character arc, which I can understand why Sydney would like this, because she goes from being very innocent to very experienced. This movie is gorier than you think it's going to be.
That's a nice surprise.
Yeah, it's gorier than you think it's going to be. That second half, once it turns, it goes into this really dark place. Now, I would just say, this is not my favorite movie of the year or anything, but I would say this is a solid watch if any of that sounds good to you. And I would say that the ending makes this movie. It's one of those kind of things.
It's worth it to get there.
Yeah, if they hadn't made the choice they did with the ending, I would have been like, meh, wah, wah, wah.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's fair though.
She's really good in it.
Because that can change your opinion, right?
Very much so.
What they do at the ending. Okay.
Very much so. Landing the ending is super important.
Even if you're like, whatever about the movie, if they get the ending, you're like, okay, all
Yes,
right, okay.
yes. And sometimes, you'll hear us say like, well, I enjoyed the journey, but they fucked up the ending. Like,
yes.
and that's okay too sometimes. But
they fucked up everything in this next one, but I still loved it. And I still think that it's going to be a tradition for me.
Yeah.
Which is the movie that came out this year, Easter, Bloody Easter. Mm-hmm. I have not laughed so hard at a stupid, just low budget, not low budget. It had a medium budget because this director has directed before and she's done some other things. It is when a bloodthirsty jackalope starts a fluffy murder spree at Easter. A Texas housewife fights to the death to save her husband.
That's right. You heard it here. A bloodthirsty jackalope.
Yes. And she discovers the creature's true identity before her town is destroyed forever. I'm going to have to agree with some of these reviews, which is like, if you go into this not as a Roger Ebert, okay, and just not take it so seriously, it's a mix of dry humor and edgy comedy. And they took a holiday that's not usually done in horror or in much, and they added some really fun stuff to it. It's a great movie if you've seen it once to have on in the background as something funny. It's slasher-esque, but I think it's easily going to become one of those movies that people want to hate, but I think it's going to become a tradition.
And the raccoons are going to love it.
So much, the story doesn't even entirely make sense, but you don't care because the acting is so over the top, on purpose bad that it's good. And I found myself laughing at a large majority of this movie.
Yeah, the opening scene was hilarious. The bunny cam was my favorite.
Oh my
Every
God.
now and then, like all the time, they would cut to this shot of the bunny, like a bunny with its mouth open.
Oh Christ.
And then over and over, it became so prevalent. It was like a stock footage of this bunny with its the bunny cam, I called it, like having reactions to things. And then it would just be like a cut to the bunny with its mouth open.
Well, and like the baby bunnies that are killing. Okay, and so you have to look at the poster is hilarious because it looks like this vicious thing, and then when you watch the movie, it's like a person in a bunny suit. But it's good enough effects, right? Because it's supposed to be kind of bad.
Yes.
So Diane Foster, who directed it, and Alison Lobel, who are the writers, they're also in the film, and they're hilarious, and they've done other things. So, again, if you just watch it for what it is.
My only criticism of this movie was that I thought it was a bit too long for what it was.
It was long. It shouldn't have been that long. I agree.
Other than that, it was
a little too much historical stuff we didn't need. Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah.
Let's remember who we are here.
Oh, God.
What are you doing?
But that whole town meeting from the historical town meeting. Yeah.
Mother of Christ. So I watched this movie called You'll Never Find Me.
Oh, I did too.
Okay. So this is another Australian movie, 2023. And the basic premise is there's this man and he lives alone in the back of this trailer park. And a woman in a storm knocks on the door and asks for help or whatever. Can I come inside? The weather's really terrible. And so this is an isolation horror. Mm-hmm. This is a psychological horror. A lot of the explanations say it's a thriller. I wouldn't say it was a thriller.
No.
I'd say it's psych horror for sure.
Mm-hmm. Almost a drama.
And psych drama. And it's a comment kind of on paranoia, obviously, and a comment on like gender power dynamics is there. The atmosphere of the first half of this movie, well, all the way through, honestly, is very slow, very tense. Mm-hmm. The performance, which that kind of movie, like an isolation horror movie or a thriller or a drama or whatever it is, if you're dealing with isolation, it really counts on the performances. And I thought that the performances were exceptional.
Me too.
I thought the tension was built, the atmosphere was built. Overall, I enjoyed the ride of this movie because the sound, I had my headphones on when I watched it, which I would recommend. The sound is crazy because there's this storm going on. And the first half of this movie is really interesting because you're watching these two characters and you can't figure out what the fuck is going on and who the fuck is the bad guy, and he's paranoid and she doesn't know what the fuck's going on, and they both carry this equal screen time in that way. Like they both have a presence like that I really enjoyed, meaning And I'm not going to at all give away the ending because it does give you an ending. A lot of times in these kinds of movies, you just kind of like limp through the end and you don't actually get an ending. This movie gives you an ending. So you do have that, and I'm not going to go there. But I would say that it's very slow. And I caution anyone who watches this movie that does not like that. It was even like a tad too slow for me, and I like that kind of thing. So if you don't like any of that, you're not going to like this movie. But I can tell you the soundtrack, like the sound design, holy fuck.
I agree with everything you just said. I think it's incredibly slow, but not slow where it isn't worth watching. You just have to be really patient at the beginning. And I like that however it was written allowed the person watching it to recognize their biases of whose side they were choosing.
Oh my God, so well done, that whole beginning.
And this is one of those movies that you wouldn't think would be powerful. It's not, I saw it on Shudder, but we're seeing how the movie theater, the idea of the movie theater is dying. And part of that is because Hollywood is dying, unfortunately, at this moment anyway. I think we'll see a resurgence of it. And why the movie theater, if you can go, is such a great, it's really the place to watch a film, even if you have the biggest TV in the house or whatever, because the atmosphere, this movie is all sound. Mm-hmm. It's little dialogue until really the end.
Yeah.
And you're just in their heads.
Yep.
So it's slow in that way, but I agree with Shannon.
Shot really well.
It was all in the hands of these two actors. Mm-hmm. And if it would have been bad performances, I would not have been able to get through it.
I would have shot
watched
it off, yeah.
I actually watched it in 2 sittings just because my attention started because it's slow, but not in a bad way. I just was like, okay, I need to come back to this.
You really have to be in that headspace for it.
But I liked it too. I have one more I'll talk about.
Okay.
I saw a movie called Blackout. Anytime I see an opportunity to try a new werewolf film, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, right.
And I feel a way about werewolf films that Shannon feels about Frankenstein films. Please, God, do it right this time. Because we have so many historical werewolf films that are actually really good. American Werewolf in London being one of my favorites. Even the OG Universal. And there's been so many bad ones along the way where I even like Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there have been so many that put the lycanthrope or the werewolf, Underworld was another great one, that they put the werewolf label on it and then there's no wolf.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, it's a metaphor. I don't want a fucking metaphor. I want a werewolf movie, or I'd go watch a drama. You tell me it's a horror film, I want the fucking werewolf. This is what I found with this movie. Well, first, let me just give you a quick summary of what the plot is. It trails after doomed Charlie Barrett, which is weird because that's my grandfather's name, a well-liked drunk who also happens to be a werewolf. Charlie knows he's a lycanthrope and wants to kill himself before he can kill more innocent people. This film needed an edit because, we're watching this film. My partner and I are watching this film together and we're like, there's so much needless dialogue that if they could have just shortened some of this unnecessary narrative that nobody cared about and done more werewolf, because the werewolf that they did in this movie was awesome. The actual transformation, I have not seen something like this in a while, where they used practical effects, probably some CGI, but you actually got to see him change and see his character change, his walk, his gait. He must have been cast just because the way he was able to play the werewolf.
Wow, cool.
If they would have just been able to do that, the story was not great, but if you want to watch like a good werewolf transformation and you like the effects and watching him play the lycanthrope, solid.
Nice.
And I just hated that I had to sit through that garbage to watch. The story was like fine. And then they tease you with Barbara Crampton being in it, and she's only in about 10 minutes of the movie.
She's never in more than 10 minutes these days of these movies. So yeah.
It just, sometimes she's in a little bit more.
Yeah, there's been a couple ones that were like all her. But.
Yeah, but it's like, man, you guys really looped us in. But I think they did follow through with the werewolf part.
Oh, that's
so
great.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, the embodiment of the werewolf, it sounds like, was
pretty cool.
super fucking solid. That's awesome. I saw this movie called Out of Darkness, and it's actually from 2022, but streaming. So we just kind of got it. So 2022. And the interesting thing I'll say about this movie is that it's set 35,000 years ago. It's got horror elements to it. So it's very dark. It's like you got to watch it at night, turn off all your lights, put on your headphones. The horror elements are very strong. The sound is fucking phenomenal because there's not a whole lot of talking.
Okay.
So the sound is really great. It's this stunning, like dark coloring and shot choices that they use. And there's this primitive story. And the performance by the main female in this is amazing. And I think it's Safia Oakley Green. This movie's going to get mixed reviews, but I really enjoyed this. It's far more brutal. The gore in this is really brutal, as you might imagine, like a primitive story to be. And it ends up having kind of a not hit your head over it message, but the ending and everything that sort of transpires near the end, it's definitely a message about humanity. There's a bit of that, but also if you just like that setting of like caveman times and what they basically had to deal with, and you like that kind of quiet tension and a great sound design. My God, the movie was amazing in that way.
Nice.
And the performances were really solid. I would recommend you check it out.
Very cool.
I also saw the movie Baghead. Did you watch that?
Okay, so I didn't finish it.
Okay.
I got about little over halfway through.
Okay. So I would say, one of the issues with this movie, because I didn't exactly hate the watch, but is that they reveal the lore and the entity really fast. And it's not very original. In other words, this is a woman who inherits a pub in the UK from her father or what have you, and guess what? It's cursed. So that's not an original idea at all. And also, this is yet another horror movie about grief. And so a lot of people are like, oh, Jesus Christ, another fucking horror movie about grief. But if you like that, and I think horror movies lend themselves to grief very, very easily and very well, and it's certainly been a theme over the last decade or so. But again, if you don't want to see another one right now, like take a knee, that's fine. I would say that they reveal the lore and the entity and all of that super, super fast instead of building on the tension of that, because that could have been a really great reveal because they don't have the money to make it really, really cool. I didn't think. And so I think they kind of blew their wad too early with that, because if you don't have a ton of money, you want to use the tension, the atmosphere, and build on the lore and the story and have it unfold, especially if it's not unique. And then you want to hit it with like a less is more kind of a thing. They just like reveal it and it's out in the open. And then, I mean, big budget movies can do that, but I think that's kind of why it fell apart for me. I'm not saying it's not a solid like watch. It's just really derivative and nothing you haven't seen before.
I didn't finish it, but what I did see is I felt I was surprised that they went into that so fast and kind of showed all their cards, and you're like, now what?
Well, and then I thought, okay, well that means it's going to go a bunch of other places, and then it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No,
it was fun.
Yeah. One more, and then we'll get to some answers of our facts. I saw the movie Stopmotion, and
how was it?
I had to shove this one in because it's a 2023 movie and it's just super unique. And this woman, the basic premise is Ella. She's a stop motion animator, and she has this really strange, complicated relationship with her mother, who's a stop motion animator. And so they set that premise up. And it's got this very unique atmosphere. It's definitely an isolation horror. It's a very basic plot in a very unique setting with mixed media. So you have this regular narrative film going on. Well, I wouldn't say it's regular. It's got some surrealistic tendencies. I thought it was actually going to be way more surreal than it actually was, like Mad God or something like that. But it wasn't. There's a there is a grounded plot going on. So that helps it a lot. And then there's this unique setting where half of it's this regular narrative, and then there's these stop motion scenes that are blended throughout. There is not an untense moment in this movie. If you're having an anxious day, I wouldn't watch this movie. If you're having a day where you can handle the dread and the tension and the pressure and the darkness of this movie, then it's very interesting. It's a very interesting watch. If you don't like heavy metaphor, you're not going to really enjoy this movie. Even though I said like there is a basic plot, there is a grounded plot to it. There is also a metaphor with this woman about how she feels about being controlled.
Okay.
So she's very controlled by her mother and stuff happens. And then there's all this kind of heavy metaphor about that, but is also grounded in a plot that kind of goes beginning, middle, and end, and stuff does happen. It is, and it's a UK indie film, right? So that can go very poorly. But here's the thing that everybody's saying about this movie is that it's incredibly gory and incredibly disgusting. And yes. Just yes.
Okay.
It's disgusting. And it's gory.
Stop motion. I remember
And there's body horror if you don't like body horror.
I saw the trailer for it, but I have not seen it. Is it, do you recommend it?
I do.
Okay.
But you have to like all those things I just said.
You love body horror.
You have to like all those things I just said. So that's why I prep everyone for that.
Okay.
All right. Let's get to some answers of the Yola. We're rocking it out.
I'm looking
here.
at the cover for Stop Motion.
Yeah.
And it looks creepy as hell.
It's very creepy. It's very gory. It's very disgusting. It's very tense. Like I said, there's not a moment of no tension in this whole movie. Like literally even in the end, you're tense and dread and a whole time. All right.
It's like I can't look away from the pictures. Okay, anyway. Which on-screen adaptation fell flat according to Stephen King?
I'm assuming you mean of one of his books.
Yes.
God, there's so many he doesn't like.
I know.
The Shining? I don't know.
Yeah, The Shining.
Okay, I was going to say that's an obvious one. But he doesn't like so many of them.
I know.
Which I don't blame him. Like, that's a tough thing to do.
It's hard to translate.
I mean, he likes a lot of them too, so I don't know.
What hobby does Norman enjoy in Psycho?
I forget.
I like how they say amateur taxidermy.
I did say stuffing his mother.
Like,
Stuffing stuff. I do know, I guess. Stuffing stuff, but I didn't remember the animals.
This 80s franchise encountered censorship hurdles in several countries, sparking debates about artistic expression and censorship.
The one... Wow, I'm blanking on the name. Go ahead and give us the answer.
Hellraiser.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. That wasn't the one I was thinking of, though. I don't want to pretend like I knew the answer.
Yeah. How long before the film's release did John Landis conceive the idea for American Werewolf in London?
3 years.
12 years.
Yeah. I figured maybe you were going to go, it was going to be the long one, but I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. What is the name of this god-awful 1987 B horror film? Home is where the horror is for a married couple who moved into the estate of the wife's late aunt, where sketchy servants and odd events threaten them. Is it Invasion of the Blood Farmers, Rest in Pieces, or Bloodbath at the House of Death?
Rest in Pieces.
It is. And I've seen that movie, and it's
Me too.
awful.
Yes, it is.
And there's a scene where the set pieces are so cheap that she goes to like break a bottle over his head, and you can see that it had been glued 50 times, and it goes and kind of breaks like that. And my friend and I, we watched this when we were kids. We'd go to this place called Thomas Video and rent all the B horror films. We were on the floor a lot. We kept rewinding that scene. But those other two films are real films.
It's a classic cult flick.
Invasion of the Blood Farmers is a film, and so is Bloodbath at the House of Death.
I've heard of the first one, and the third one made sense.
Yeah. So there you go.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for that. This has been a wonderful, in-depth, fabulous, varied episode. We did a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been an episode of Terror Talk. My name is Shannon.
And I'm Kathy. Sleep safe, everyone.